All right, we're in CIS 105, Module 13, Web Authoring Software. So before we get in too far into it, somebody help me out, or if you're watching on replay, about what is the World Wide Web. We talked about this a little bit the past week or two, right? World Wide Web is a system of interconnected computers designed for public access. They know it as the internet. You, the end user, view web pages using something called a web browser. You may also, if you're doing development stuff, use an FTP, file transfer protocol, to upload. And then there's different protocols for email as well. Just kind of call back to our networking chapter, right? What else goes into the web? We have our web server. That is a system big, essentially connected to the internet, and its job is to deliver or serve web pages. So when you go hit a website, information is stored on one of these big servers, and when you go to the website, it serves a copy of that web page. On the receiving end, we have web browsers, right? So that retrieves an HTML web page. If you don't know what HTML stands for, well, good news. We're going to do a lot of HTML later on today. So the web browser grabs that HTML and it displays it back to you in a human readable manner. And of course, the web browser runs on your computer where that you have. So if you're watching later, think about what web browser you use. And if you're here with me live, if you're comfortable, come off mute. If not, drop it in the chat box. What is the web browser that you use maybe to get to Canvas? Some of the common ones are Edge, Firefox, Opera, Safari. So me personally, I actually use two browsers. So because I all of my personal stuff and I have all of my work stuff. So all of my personal stuff is logged into Chrome, and all of my South Mountain stuff is logged into Firefox. That way I have it separated and there's no confusion on Gmail. I'm not going to accidentally open up the wrong mailbox and start working on the wrong email. When I'm working on South Mountain, I'm in my South Mountain browser, and everything that I need for that work is stored there. FTP is File Transfer Protocol. What FTP is for, it allows developers to upload code to the. So think about, we're going to have an assignment this week where we create an HTML web page. We're not going to go all the way to the web server and turn it into a real website. But think, if you were going to do that, you're not going to have all the visitors coming and grabbing it for your laptop. You're going to put it onto a web server and visitors will get it from the web server. FTP is what you use the code from your computer where you made it to the web server where users will get it. Couple examples. We have logos here for FileZilla and WinSCP, both of which are free. I like free. All right, I promised more about HTML, and here we are. So HTML, Hypertext Transfer Protocol. HTML5 is the latest version, which was released in 2008 and had a major update in 2004. And it is developed by W3C. Now, when I say released and updated, of course, HTML existed before that, but HTML5 specifically, which adds some new features and new tags and things like that, that is what I'm talking about was released as recently as 2008 and then updated in 2014. So essentially, every few years, the standards organization goes through and they say, hey, this is a feature that we should add, or this is something we can take out, not useful anymore. So that's the release, that's the update, just kind of getting the standards so that everybody across the world making websites is doing it the same way, right? So HTML is the code behind all websites, and you are going to write some before the week is done. So how are you going to write it? You're going to web authoring software. And what that is, it's software, of course, for the creation of web pages. We have the WYSIWYG, a text editor, and a dual editor. So is what you see is what you get. That's a visual editor. That's going to be, almost the same experience as working with Microsoft Word, right? As you type it in, it shows up and you see exactly what it's going to look like. What you see is a text editor is going to show you the raw code. That's what actually we'll be working with today in the demo. I'm going to use Notepad+, which is a text editor. And when I'm in Notepad, all you're going to see is the raw HTML code. If I see what the website looks like, I have to go outside of my text editor, outside of my web authoring software, see what I'm making. The text editor is kind of expert mode, right? It only shows you the code. But the plus side is because you're seeing, you can have that full control and make it do exactly what you want it to do. And then somewhere in the middle, dual editor, that's going to be something like maybe Dreamweaver, where it's going to give you both the WYSIWYG and text editor components. So what happens there usually is it'll sort of divide the screen in two, where you have kind of, I'll do it right on this laptop. This bottom half here would be code, and you can go in here and make changes to the code line by line. And then because it's a dual editor, the top is going to show you what that web page actually looks like as you make changes, right? So it's a dual editor. The top half is what you see is what you get, and the bottom half is a text editor. It's kind of a 2-in-1 deal. So that's what most professionals are going to use, right? Because it's the fastest way to do it. You have the full control element of the text editor, and you also get that preview of the what you see is what you get. Another what you see is what you get would be something like WordPress, right? Where you go in there and you're making your website, you're kind of dragging and dropping, maybe you're doing a little bit of typing. It's almost like you're working in Word, right? But you don't have access to the underlying code to make those little changes. You're sort of stuck with what the program you're using decides for you to do. Speaking of stuck and making websites, we do want to talk about the difference between and a dynamic web page. What we're going to be making in our assignment is a static web page. What does that mean? It doesn't change. Every user that goes on there is going to see the same thing, and every time that user comes back, they're going to see the same thing. The only way to make it change is for the developer to actually go in and change the code. Top half here on our image. A dynamic website is going to change based on something that the user is inputting or some kind of variable. So in the class live with me, drop something in the chat box for me. Think about what would be maybe some websites that you use of either an input or a variable that causes that dynamic content to change. I'm going to pause for a second and wait for a couple ideas. Or shout it out too. So a variable, good question. A variable is going to be something that changes, right? Maybe an example there would be the dynamic change is based on your location, where the website is if you are in Arizona or if you're in Virginia or if you're in China, right? And based on the location, that would be a variable. You're going to get different content on the website based on where you are. So any kind of social networking, LinkedIn, Facebook, something like that, that's going to be a dynamic website, right? We all know that it's going to show you content that's relevant to you. When you log into Facebook, when you log into LinkedIn, it's completely different from when your grandma logs in. Right? You're seeing completely different content. And every time you go back, you see something different too, because it's constantly changing on the back end. Good one there. I like that. Yeah, and then also Walmart, your kind of e-commerce stuff. Those are also dynamic websites. Your shopping cart, right? And whatever you put into your shopping cart, it's going to stay there for you. But when somebody else is coming in, see what's in your cart, right? It's dynamic, it's changing, it's customized for you. So I told you that every website is built on HTML. Thinking about what we just talked about of static versus dynamic, HTML is a static language. The developer uploads is what's seen by every user. So if that's the case, if every web page is and HTML doesn't change, how do we get dynamic web pages? How does that work? The answer is there's other languages that work together with HTML, and those ones support the dynamic functions. There are PHP, ASP, .NET, and we're going to talk a little bit about JavaScript is another dynamic, another language that enables dynamic content to happen. So JavaScript, client-side programming language. What that means is that JavaScript runs on your computer, not on the web server. So JavaScript runs inside the web browser on your computer. It's a very popular, very common on the web, and it's used to deliver that personalized or dynamic content. And it can be based on your location, like we talked about, or maybe based on activities, right? So depending on where you on the website or how long you've been logged in, anything like that, it's going to change what types of content you are seeing. And good news is the end of me talking at you today. We wanted to get some theory out of the way so you understand how HTML to the World Wide Web fits into the web pages, all those sorts of things. And now we're going to dive into an actual demo. While I switch over to that, if you have any questions about the theory we just talked, static versus dynamic, HTML versus JavaScript, now is the time. And if not, we'll do the demo and keep it moving. Okay. I see people. So let's get our marks for attendance. Thank you for joining. Okay, gotcha. Okay, so what we're looking at here, on the left side of my screen, we have Notepad++, which is my text editor, showing HTML code of a website. And on the right side, we have a folder. In is that same file, but saved as HTML. And then we have a couple that are used in my website. So I'm going to go ahead and open this website up now so we can see what it looks like. So just high level, what do we see? We see a gray background, some table, some pictures, but one of the pictures isn't working, a YouTube video embedded in the website, and a couple of lists. So now let's take a look through the code and figure out how each of those things. So a couple things right off the bat. When you're looking on my screen, I have the colors set a little bit easier to see the differences. Depending on what software you use, you may or may not see it that way. First thing in the chat, please let me know if you're able to read it or if it's too small. I don't want to go too far down the line if you're not able to see what we're working with. So just let me know in the chat box, please, if it's good or too small. All right, so this green text with the little bracket and the exclamation point, that means it's a comment. That is not going to be displayed in the website. It's just something for me as the developer, as the coder, to know what's going on. So this one right here, right? It says this contains all of your metadata, scripts, styles, etc. What it's talking about is this very top part that I highlighted here. This is the metadata. That's the data about the website. And we're defining some things where we're defining the title of, right here I say quarantine wrenching. In my web browser, the tab is called quarantine wrenching. If I change that and call this CIS 105, and then I'm going to do a Control S to save my file or go File, Save. Now when I reload, see the title changed to CIS 105 based on what I had right. Now, if I just change this comment to a whole bunch of gobbledygook, that has, it doesn't change anything that you see on the website because the comment is ignored by the web browser. It's just there, the coder figure out what's going on. Inside these two style tags is defined stuff for the whole page. So if it's, while we're working through this, we see when we're talking about a table, we want to have a border. And what's that border going to be? 4 pixels and solid. So you see what that border looks like here on the table now. If I change this 4 to a 2, save it again and reload, you see that border got smaller. I didn't change anything directly on that table. I changed it in this top style, and that applied to the whole website. Same thing here of talking about the font size of 32, aligning the text to the center. And when we're working here, the OL and UL, those are talking about lists. What's that do? It says, okay, if I have an ordered list, align the text to the left. If I have an unordered list, align the text also to the left. We'll make some changes. We'll see how those things change everything. Now, that's data out of the way. We have what's called the body tag. The body is what you see when you open. That's the main course, right? Everything that appears on the website is between 2 body tags. So you see it on line 20 and ends all the way down here on line 69. So everything in here is what's shown in the web. And then we have this H1, which means header. And inside of that, we can see that's where I changed my headlights. Why? Because I got all of that right here. And I explicitly said that I want the color to be blue and I want the font size 48. That's a style attribute. I can go ahead and entirely remove that style attribute, reload it. Now it's back to just black text. And here we have the background color of the whole website, right? So the body style background color is gray. I can change that explicitly to white. I can make it blue. I want it to be. I like the gray. It gives us some contrast, but it doesn't blow your eyes away. And if you don't have that, if you this body style background color, it will default to white. Another thing is you see this BR. What that is a line break. That's going to move the text down from one line to the next. So let's take a look at that BR out. But when I'm looking at the text in the code, it's on 3 lines. When I reload over here, well, that's weird. In my code, I said to put Y on its own line. In the web, not. That's because HTML does not care about white space or, kind of blanks between. If you want it to have a line break, you have to explicitly tell it to put a line break. You have to put that specific tag. So I'll put that back in and reload, and now it's back on its own separate line. So now we have moving to our table. Tables can be a little, this looks intimidating, all of this right here. But it's really not. It's actually really simple. You just have to break it down. So the first thing you do is you wrap the whole thing in a table tag, because you know where the table starts and where the table ends. And then we have an attribute saying to align the whole table center. Let's change that and instead say align right. I'll save that and reload the web page, and now the table is aligned to the right. And extra break in here just to make things nice. And now we have all of our, see the table is kind of halfway filled in, right? So we can see the steps performed and the description. So each kind of looks like this, where it starts with TR, meaning table row, and then TD, table divider for each column inside of that row, right? So we're looking at here, this is remove grill, and to get to the headlight area. The first divider is remove grill, and the divider is to get to the headlight area. And up above that, we have that whole row is step performed and description. The first divider is the step performed. Divider is description. And I have this extra one called strong around each of those ones. Strong does is that makes it show up as bolded. So strong is the tag you put in there to make some text bold. And every tag, you have to open it and close it. And the closing tag has the backslash on it. This is where I'm stopping that particular thing. So just let's make that the tip a little bit clearer. So thinking about what's going on here, right? I'm changing the headlights on my truck. What does each step mean? So we know that taking the grill off is to get to the headlight area. And what about taking headlights out? That is going to be to make room for the new ones. So I save that, refresh it, and there we go. Now that's been added to the table. We can keep moving, right? I need to fill in this part next to installing the new headlights now. So we have that, we found that row. Divider is installing the new headlights. And then this second divider, this blank area, is going to be, that's where we want to put that text to show up next to install new headlights. And why do we do that? So I can see at night. I'll save my text file again and reload. And there it is. It got put in at the right spot. Same thing for wire up halos. We'll see that in a second when I fix the other picture. So we have our whole row. We have our first divider, which is wiring up halos. The second divider, which we want to fill in. And why do we do that? Because it's cool. And then we want to fill in putting the grill back on. Why do we do that? To finish up. And then try not to get pulled over. Why do I need to try not to get pulled over? Because blue lights aren't legal. So now I'm going to save all of that at once and reload it. All of those changes I made all popped in at the same time. So now let's take a look at you install pictures. I said style, let's make that gold. I could also say, instead of say red, reload. Now that got changed to red. And then we have here image tags to put an image inside the website. You'll see I have two of them. There's one for each picture. And now let's take a look back at our folder for a second. So in our folder, we have HTML document. We have a picture called during, and you can see it's a JPG. And we have a picture called, which is also a JPG. They're all in the exact same folder. So that way the web knows where to get them from. So when I want to insert an image to my website, I use this image tag. SRC is source, right? So what's the source of the image? Well, the first image I want is during, right? That's showing what happens while I'm fixing it. Some style elements, yeah, let's put a border on it, 5 pixels, make it a black border. And then we have to define how large we want that image to display on our website. So I said I want it 300 by 400 pixels. That is why we are able to see this during picture. Now you'll notice the second picture isn't working right now. Let's figure out why. Tag again, and the source is after.png. Okay, I have a picture. Why is it not working? I'm on Windows. I'm going to right click on that picture and say property. And then it shows me that the type of file is a JPG. So when I say after.png, that's not the same thing as after.jpg. That's why the picture isn't showing. I'm telling to go to a source that doesn't exist. We also have that same border of 5 pixels, but this blue. And then we have this alt tag is one extra thing. And what that does is if it fails to load, or maybe you have somebody visiting your website who uses a screen reader or something like that, when you put that alt tag, it's going to give a description of the picture. So that way, if your visitor, for whatever reason, can't see the picture, with the alt tag, they still get some information about what that picture would be. And then again, we define and width. Let's go ahead and fix that source so that way it displays. So remember, I had to change it to after JPG because that's the file type of my picture. I'm going to save that code, reload my website, and now we see the super cool picture of my Jeep with the new lights on it. And then the part not getting pulled over is these halos around the edge are actually blue. And I found out after I spent a while installing them that I shouldn't have blue lights on the front of my car. Good news is I have them on a switch, so most of the time that's off, but if I'm doing some kind of off-roading, then I can turn them back on. So win some, you lose some. Main takeaways from that whole image thing, the name has to, if there's anything wrong with it, it's not going to show, and they have to be in the same folder so that way your web knows where to go and look for it. Moving down the page, now we have our YouTube video, text above it. So I used this H1 again for YouTube video, and then I used an H. So when you're using these header tags, it goes from 1 to 6, and as the number gets, the size of the text goes down. So let's take a look here at this watch and learn. I'm going to change that from an H2 to an H6. Save it and reload. That text got. Another thing is that that text got moved from the center to the left side. Why is that? Let's go all the way back up to our metadata section, our style stuff. Take a look at why. We defined right here that if it's an H1, an H2, or a paragraph, by default, any kind of text is going to be left aligned, right? Because that's how we read our papers. By default, it goes to the left. So what I can do here to make this one pop back to the center, I can add 6 right there. And now when I reload, I need because H1 comma, H2 comma, H6 comma, and then P. Programming languages is very particular. If you miss a character somewhere, it's not going to work how you want it to. So I put my that was missing. And now when I refresh, it goes back to what I wanted it to be, where my little tiny 6 watch and learn is back in the middle. This iframe is how a YouTube video, and this is actually exactly what I do in Canvas as well. So I'm and pull that up in the background. But what does this do, right? So an iframe is kind of like Inception. What that is, it lets you embed a web page within a web page. So in this case, what am I embedding? I'm embedding one videos from our class recordings. So I put the source is the link to YouTube, and we have the width, height, and then we have some options, right? Do I want to allow you to make it full screen? Yes. And all the couple other things that YouTube gives you by default. And then the iframe tag closes, and that means that of embedding the YouTube video. Let's take a look at that end to end real quick. My YouTube page where I upload the videos, and I'm pulling up Canvas, and I'm going to show you how I get the videos to show up on Canvas. Waiting on one more thing to load. I just don't want to show you all the sausage being made. Sometimes you don't need to see that. So while I wait for the second half to load, let's go ahead and take a look at actually the one for today. So I haven't published it yet, so you can't see it yet on your Canvas, but I'm in the process of building it. So I come in here, I edit it, and then initially, actually, it gives me a WYSIWYG editor, right? So exactly what I type in is what is showed on the page. So here's the class on 4/25/2020. Thank you for watching. All right, so I make that, I hit save, and now when I come back, exactly what I typed in is what's showing. So here's our videos, and we'll just use last week's for now as the example. So when I am looking at a video on YouTube, it actually gives me some share options. So if I want to embed this video from 4/18, what I do is come to share, click on that, and it gives me a whole bunch of options, right? I can share it to Facebook, Twitter, Reddit, Tumblr, whatever I want. In this case, what I want to do is So I'm going to click on that, and then it gives me all of this code automatically. So I'll whoops, get back to it because I shouldn't have clicked off. Click on embed, get all of this code, and then click the copy button. Now I come over to Canvas, and I can actually switch to an HTML editor. So now I'm seeing the raw HTML code for this Canvas page. And I'm gonna, the iframe and all of that stuff that I just copied from YouTube, and then go back to my rich content. That looks good, and now I'll hit save. And that's it. So I'll come, class is done, and I'll change that link to be today's recording. And then when you come back to Canvas, it's right there for you. Same deal, working with your website, your web page for class. So I'm going to go ahead and take that other YouTube video out. And now there's no YouTube video, right? So I come to YouTube. Do this again just to make sure. I say share, embed, and I copy that code. I come back to my text editor, and you'll notice I put it inside of a paragraph tag, a set of P's, one open and one close. The reason I do that is just to make it have nice spacing around it. Go ahead and paste all of my code in, and we can see that we have an, again, the source is that YouTube video, the width and height. I can actually change those. We'll leave them as they are for now. We'll hit save, reload. So there we go. But maybe I want this to be small. I don't want it to take up too much room on my page, right? I could maybe make it 200 by 150. Hit save. When I reload, the YouTube video is still there, but it's super small. That's too small, right? So let's make it bigger. Let's go back. Let's maybe make it about the size as our pictures. So we'll say 300. Oh, but we'll make our width 400 because we want it to be wider than, right? So 400 wide and 300 high. Save it again, reload. Now my YouTube video is a pretty good size. Last thing we're going to look at is these couple of lists. Looking at the difference between them, our ordered list is ordered, right? It counts 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then we ordered list is not numbered. It just has the bullet points. So we can define that by either saying O or UL. So OL is going to define an ordered list, and UL is going to define an ordered list. This is kind of similar in terms of how you do it to a table, where you have to wrap the whole thing up, right? Start your ordered list with an open OL tag, and you end your ordered list with a closed OL tag. A closed has that backslash on it. And then each list item you wrap up between opening and closing LI tag. And we can see exactly how that works. 1, 5. Instead of bored, I want to say I am a tinker. Oh, I can make the whole thing go all off. Sorry about that. I can say I am a tinkerer, right? Save that and reload, and it changed exactly that one. And maybe I want to add one more to my top. Make it the top 6. So if I want one more line item, I have to open up my LI tag, just like that, in 2 brackets. What would another reason to buy stuff be? I leave my house, and now I want to end that list item. So I come in and my tag with a bracket, a backslash. What tag am I closing? The LI tag, and another bracket. End it. Save and reload. And now you see number 6 was added to that list. After that, the reasons not to buy stuff is an unordered list. So that one here is wrapped up between 2 L tags. And we can see each of the list items here as well. Attribute I added on this one is a list style type. What that does is defines what the bullet. So here I said square, so we see we have the square ones. They can also be disk. Save that and reload. See what the disk looks like. Or it can be circle. Save that and reload. Or it can even be save that and reload. So you get all kinds of choices. And if you take it out all the way together, you still do get a default style, which is going to be just the regular bullet points. The whole thing is wrapped up inside of a starting UL tag and an ending UL tag, and each list is also wrapped up in a tag. I'm explicitly saying to align this to the left. And there we go. So that was a little bit of fun with making a website. Let's take a look real quick at what we need to be doing this in Canvas in CIS 105. So we are way down here, all the way down on module 13. After the recording is done, it'll be right here for you and online. So you can come back and access this video. And then we have some pages to review. So this web authoring software 101 is a slideshow talking about the same stuff we talked about at the beginning, but just shown in a. And then we have important for your assignment is this creating a web HTML. So there is a PowerPoint here that is going to show this in the demo, but it's in a PowerPoint format. So it may be easier for you to come back reference here. And what this does is it kind of talks you through, here's what a tag is, here's what a comment is. It helps you, if it's easier to read than to watch back the video of the same things we looked at as we were changing my web page. And then more information, if you want to get fancy with your assignment, just, speaking to you, you want to learn some more, whole bunch of stuff there. The 2 assignments this week. One is actually making a web page. So use whatever software you want. I was using ++. And what do I want to see in that page? I'm going to look for a title in your title tag. That from quarantine wrenching to CIS 105, I want to see that you change that title. using a header tag. I want to see that you embedded a YouTube video. I want to see a table. I want a link to something other than the YouTube video. I didn't show you exactly how to do a link. A really, really useful resource is W3 Schools. So let's open this up real quick. So you're looking at this. Okay. I need to put a hyperlink on my assignment, but I wasn't shown how to do that. And this website is really awesome. It shows you exactly how to do anything you want to do. So looking at our table of contents here, ooh, HTML links. What does this do? It shows you how to put a link into your website. So just to see how that works, you can take the code right from here. We're going to come back to my website that we were working on, and we're going to drop a link in at so I save that, I reload. Now my link is, when I click on it, it takes me out to that other website. So make sure that whatever link you put has something with your website. Put an image in there, and then remember you have to have, so make sure you upload that image to Canvas as well. Use the paragraph tag, and I want to see one list. Your choice if it's an ordered or unordered list. If you want to get fancy, you can change the text style. If you want to get fancy, you can change the background. Make sure you submit your code as HTML, and you submit the image also up to Canvas. To get started, you can actually download the code and the 2 pictures that in today's class, and that same code is here. Totally fine with you using that as a starting point. Changes to make it yours. One thing when you're saving it, make sure you do a save as. And depending on what type of editor you have, you'll either have to say all types, or it may give you an for HTML, but no matter what, it needs to be saved as, you know, this one was about headlights, right? So I would headlights.html. And I'm also going as just headlights.text. And let's take a look at the difference between those. So coming back to when I open up headlights.html, my computer knows that's a website. It pops it in the web browser exactly as it should. I saved it with the right file type. If I don't save it as HTML, if I just save it as a text file, my computer just gives me a code that's not a website. That's not what I'm getting for. So just make sure when you submit it to Canvas, you have it as a website. And here's exactly what I'll be grading you on. We have a web authoring software quiz. That's going to come from the first part of class today when we were talking about for static websites and the different types of web authoring software. That is it. I got your question in the chat box. We'll get that in 1 second. A couple other things I want to stress while is here. Back on our homepage, I'm going to be updating this picture as time goes on, but just keep in mind that we have new due dates now, and we have a last accepted date. The The way that works is using the example of the assignment for creating a database in Access, right? The query assignment. If you submit that by the 28th, coming Tuesday, you will get full credit. If you submit it by May 5th, you'll get half credit. If you May 6th, I'm not going to grade it. So looking at the color coding, if an assignment shows up as green, you are eligible for full credit. If it's on this list as yellow and you submit it, you're eligible for half credit. And if this list shows it as red, you can no longer submit that assignment. I'm being lenient here. You're getting weeks automatically, and you're getting 3 weeks for half credit. After that, it's too late. And so let's work together. Let's keep this moving. I know we've had a fun time this semester, but now we got to start getting it back on track. We had a question in the chat box about how do we save it properly just out of regular. So what I'm going to do is copy all of this text directly from the website, and I'm going to open up Notepad, old Notepad, put all the text in here, and then I want to save this the right way so it shows up as a website. I'm going to do File, Save As, and then on this where it says Save As Type, to all files, and the file name we're going to give this is example, and then you have to HTML. And I'm going to save that right on my desktop so I can get to it quickly. So remember, all files. File name is whatever I want it to be, but it has to end in .html. Go ahead and save it. And now when I go to my desktop, I see this example.html. When I open it, it takes me right to the site. But you'll notice both of my pictures are broken. That's because my pictures are not in the same place as my website. If I move this to that same folder and open it again, now the one picture worked because it's in the same spot, but the second picture doesn't work because remember, when we first opened up this code, we had to fix that picture to make it work. All right, my throat is getting sore. I need to stop talking, stop recording. Thank you all for being here, and let me know how I can help you with the rest